Hi, this is Warren Bingham. Great to be back here on behalf of IBD Medical to talk about my journey in my diagnosis of type 2 diabetes. This is our second video, and the title of this video is the processing phase. So I've been asked to share with you my insights and my thoughts and experiences in relation to what happened when I was diagnosed and what were the events that occurred following that. So the first question that came up was, how did diabetes affect how you looked at yourself at the beginning stage? Well, I got to tell you that, and I probably should say from the outset, that it took me 12 months, at least a year, to come to terms with the diagnosis that I had type 2. So if there's anything I can suggest to each and every one of you is, if you need to take time to process this, then do so. I went through a number of phases, and many of you may have taken a similar journey. But I must admit, the first phase was disbelief. I didn't believe that I could have a chronic disease. I certainly didn't believe that I had type 2 diabetes. I sort of, just for the first 3 to 6 months, didn't really do much about it. I talked about it a lot, but I did that in the context of denial. I didn't do it in the context of embracement and acceptance. So the conversations were probably very biased that were surrounding me at the time, because I made it known that I just said there's no way I could be possibly type 2 diabetic. I thought I was healthy. I thought I was active. I thought I didn't need to lose weight. I was 74 kilograms. Height-wise, I'm 176, 177 centimeters in height. So I had a good BMI, if you will. But as it turns out, as I later on found out, there was always room for me to lose some weight. There was certainly room for me to improve my diet, and certainly room for me to increase my daily exercise. So getting to terms with this diagnosis was interesting, because I probably, for the first 3 months, I didn't share it with anybody, with the exception to my partner. I didn't really know where to put this new knowledge. And secondly is, the thing that really also was compounding that was that I didn't really know much about type 2 diabetes or diabetes in general. So I had to do something around that and give myself some time to understand what was this disease. That said, after about 3 months, I started sharing it with people, asking questions, and maybe I went from one end of the spectrum to the other, from being absolutely silent and in denial. When I came out and said, hey, I've been diagnosed with this, I did it still with a denial element to it, but the questions I asked just brought back a ton of information. And I then suffered what I describe as information overload. Everyone has, and I say this with the greatest of respect to my family, friends and colleagues, everyone has an expert opinion on diet. Everyone has got an expert opinion on diabetes, on what you can and cannot eat. So I found myself getting increasingly more frustrated when I was trying to find the easy answer by asking the one question, that I wasn't getting an easy answer, and I wasn't getting just the one answer, the golden answer that was there. So the biggest struggle and pressure point that I had, that I really had to process, was that I do have type 2 diabetes, that I need to do something about this. And when I came to the conclusion that no matter what I do, if I look at my diet, my exercise, my health, my weight, my sleep patterns, what I do to have fun in life, if I look at any of those things with the mindset to improve my diagnosis, then there's got to be a good outcome for me. And in fact, there's really no way I can lose by doing something about it for myself. The other thing that came to conclusion was that the only person who can change this was me. I could have opted to take some medication. In fact, the GP wanted me to do that straight away. I decided that I think really if I'm going to have any control of this disease, I need to do something about it myself. yourself. So, coming to terms with the diagnosis and some of the tips that I guess if I were to go through this again, one is definitely give yourself the time and the room to process. It's quite a shock to be told that you've got a chronic disease and that for the rest of your life you're going to have to live with it. Having said that, it's not always bad news. We'll talk about what happened and in the future video productions, we'll talk about different elements of my lifestyle, what I do today, what did I do to counteract it. But really, I think the key point in this video is to share with you that I didn't necessarily feel like I was alone, but then it was still very much up to me alone to come to terms with the diagnosis. My family history wasn't of any help. I'm adopted. I have Spanish and Filipino heritage in my family. Both racial populations have very strong, very high incidence of and prevalence of diabetes and type 2 diabetes in particular. So there's a good chance that I may have got some hereditary diagnosis there, but not knowing my biological family, I'm not able to confirm that. I don't know anything about my parents or their ancestors and so on. So that was that. So I ultimately had to make the decision that I've got to start doing something for myself, that I've got an opportunity to turn this into an advantage rather than a disadvantage, and if all else fails, if I can't control my HbA1cs below the level that it needs to be, then I need to go into medication. So I've got I've got a fallback, but this is worth a decent shot, and that's what I've done. So with that, I hope that keeping this video reasonably short, and I'm sorry I've gone on a little bit, but ultimately a key message from me is that if you need to speak to someone, get some help. If you need to speak to your family or friends, it's a good way to start sharing the story, the impact of the diagnosis, and how you feel about it. There are a plethora of resources, organisations, educators, diabetic educators, counsellors, all there available for your beck and call if you're having any challenges or mental health challenges or issues or concerns or stress or whatever. So don't be afraid to reach out to get that help. But most importantly, once you accept the diagnosis, you have the ability to do a lot for yourself. And ultimately, it's your health we're talking about here. So it's in your interest that if you can get to that space, then your journey may be that it's only just starting at that point, but it's a great start, and it's potentially a new start for your life to do things that you've perhaps not thought of for a long time, or in my case, never ever been on a diet before. And it certainly got me there pretty damn quickly once I accepted the diagnosis, and it's changed my life for the better. So thank you again. Thank you for allowing me to be in your audience. It's wonderful to be here. I hope this has been of interest and of value to you, and I look forward to sharing with you my next video, which will be the impact of diabetes on my everyday life. So we'll talk about that next time round. In the meantime, take care, stay safe, and look after yourself. Cheers.